Good morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We are on episode 38 and we are both in person for the 38th episode. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football, the college playoffs, and how this has all kind of been scripted out, and then our must-watch for college football. I don't even need to bring on my co-host because my co-host is right here. How you doing today?
Good. I'm doing good. It's awesome to have us all both together at the same time. We had some really good football. We're going to have some really good football on Saturday, and we had a good game on Thursday night. So
we did, yeah. So let's start with that game right off the bat. So it was Eagles versus Washington Commanders. Sorry about that. The Commanders versus the Eagles. Kind of a snooze fest a little bit in the beginning. The defenses weren't showing too much. The offenses weren't trying to do much. Obviously, the field goal kicker, Jake Elliott, has some misses. You heard the crowd kind of get into that one a little bit. But then as well, Saquon starts up. And Saquon has the type of game he wants. What did you think about that game?
I thought it was, I thought the first half was not that entertaining. But I think that as the second half went on, I think we could put it to rest. Jane Daniels is not up for the MVP this year.
Yeah.
These last 2 weeks, they've went up against Pittsburgh, two good defenses, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and they just are not. He's just not there. And the injury, I think, is affecting him a little bit as well. Yeah. You can see on the sideline. But I tell you what, that Saquon Barkley, he can get on that in the middle of the field. If he gets wide open in a wide open lane, he's gone. I mean, they couldn't do anything with it.
And it's tough because Jane Daniels, you're wondering if the injury is still lingering, if it's anything to do with, just I understand good defenses, and he's a rookie, right? We're not trying to put him in a different category where he is, but that injury, ever since the injury, it's definitely slowed him down. Even when you go back to the Bears game and things like that. So, and Bears have a good defense too. So don't get me wrong, he's probably had 3 good weeks of, it's Washington looked like this hot start. But now it's the Eagles for that division, which I called earlier in the year. I said the Eagles won that division, and I still think they're the biggest competition for the Detroit because of how they run the ball.
I think so, too. And another deal, too, is I think they should have kicked the field goal. With 6 minutes ago, you could have been up 13-12 because in the next possession, they go right down and score. It was almost a ball game there. I mean, that's just so hard. And I think you got to give him as much momentum as you possibly can for Jane Daniels. You know, they were struggling. It was a 42-yarder. You know, I think you go. I think you try to kick the field goal, get the lead, because then all the momentum went right to it. And then, they get the ball back. They can't move the ball. They get the Philadelphia gets the ball back. They go right down and score. Yeah. Ball game over. I mean, it was over.
Yeah, and
I know the final score didn't show that, but it was over.
Yeah, but I think if you had your regular kicker, you may have kicked it there.
Right.
But remember, they have a replacement in right now because of Seifert's injury. So I get that, but also, too, I want to win games.
Yeah.
And you got to get after it. So I get it, but you're up 13-12, like you said.
Right.
And the field goals.
You would have been up 13-12 if you kicked the field goal. Right.
But I think the biggest thing of this conversation is the Eagles. The Eagles are going to look like they're starting out slow, but that second half to turn on. Well, that's because they're running the ball. Right. And they're making that defense tired. That's why Saquon looks like he's coming up. Gainwell has some good runs, too, as well. But Jalen Hurts in that passing game has to get a little bit better, though. There was a couple plays where he threw the ball out of bounds, and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are open.
Right.
I know he's got Goddard back, so that helps a little bit, too. But that passing game's got to get better before I put him with Detroit.
Yes, most definitely.
But when you look in the NFC, I think that's your biggest competition right now to Detroit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, that was another deal, too, is, they had the big stop there, and then he scores that. And then they got it to 19-10, and they just couldn't move the ball down the field. I mean, it just, that just, he's going to be good. I think he just got to give him time.
And the final thing I'll say about this, too, is I definitely agree the fourth down changed the momentum.
Yeah.
But I think their defense always did that throughout that game.
Right.
It would seem like, they missed a field goal, right? And then the defense would come out and get a nice sack or something like that. So, all right. Well, that's Thursday Night Football. First, we're going to talk about college playoffs, right? So you guys have been starting to see some of the top 12, the playoff committee. So number 1 right now is Oregon. And you can see down in the bottom of the banner right there, those are the teams. But number 1, Oregon. Number 2, Texas. Number 3, BYU. Number 4, Miami. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 6, Penn State. Number 7, Indiana. Number 8, Tennessee. Number 9, Notre Dame. Number 10, Alabama. Number 11, Ole Miss. And number 12, Boise State. So to start that off right there, your first out is Georgia, and the second team out is SMU. So this kind of reminds me of like the right before the March Madness. We start saying first team out, second team out, right? And everyone's surprised Georgia. Georgia's out and stuff like that. SMU, I think, is the biggest surprise. And why I'm saying that is because I don't believe in Miami. Is Miami going to win the ACC? Are they even going to be there?
Yeah, are they even going to be in the ACC championship?
Yes.
Right.
And I think if Miami doesn't make it, because I think there's only one ACC team.
I agree. I totally agree.
There's only one that can come out of that because if you look right now, is there only one Big 12? That's BYU.
Right.
And then all the rest are Big 10s and SECs, which is how it's going to be. We knew this coming into it.
Right.
But SMU not being in there yet is like, I would throw them maybe at 12 because I think they have a chance of getting back in there.
Well, and as you can see on the deal too, number 5 is Ohio State. They could play Oregon, and they could play Oregon 3 times this year if everything holds the standard.
Yeah.
And Ohio State wins next week, and then they play Oregon again. They could, but I think that these standings are so new right now that it's just people got to get used to. If you look at to see what they're rated compared to what the committee has decided how good they really are. So I mean that's a little. I think people are not quite used to that yet. And you've got Georgia on the out. They've got the toughest schedule of all this year.
Yeah.
So I mean that's tough that they could not make it. I think when it comes down to it, you could see a 3-loss team make the playoffs.
See, and I don't know if you're going to see that only because the Big Ten has teams that only have 1 loss or zero
loss. Right.
Because you have Indiana, you have 1 loss Ohio State, you have 1 loss Penn State, you have 0 loss Oregon.
Right.
All of those have to get in there.
Right.
My biggest thing is like, okay, so Ole Miss beats Georgia. Okay, we get that one. And Georgia beats Texas, but Texas is the number 1 or number 2 or whatever.
Right.
And then Alabama beats Georgia. Like, Georgia hasn't played a home game for over a month.
Right.
And you're going to take them out after losing to them? Like,
right.
I mean, let's not forget that, like, LSU had a role into this whole thing, too. Like, they beat some of these teams that you're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
Yeah.
So let's just remember that again, okay?
Yeah.
I think what the committee is saying right now so far is this is foreshadow. This is what we see is going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that people have to understand is they're not projecting this week. They're projecting what the playoffs is going to be. And that's why they're putting Georgia out, because maybe they think Georgia's going to lose this week against Tennessee.
Right.
If Georgia loses, they're done.
Yeah, they're out. I mean, there's just no way that they can make it in. No way.
Alabama, you're one. I mean, you guys got another. Don't they have to play someone? I don't know. Maybe not. Because Texas has to play Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
And then Ole Miss, I think has someone too. But, like, there's games. I don't believe in Ole Miss. I think they had a good game against Georgia, but I just don't believe in them. I don't truly believe in Alabama yet. Tennessee has, which we'll talk about that game, but like Nico, he's kind of questionable.
Well, he's hurt right now, so yeah.
And the team I'm going to tell you, not just because I'm a fan, to watch out for is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame has played really good football recently. They have 2 ranked teams. Now, don't get me wrong, these ranked teams are not the greatest.
No.
But they're beating the shit out of some of these teams.
Right.
And I'm going to think they're going to beat the shit out of Virginia this week too.
Right.
So let's keep an eye out for them too. But
I mean, I think they're toughest test for Notre Dame might be Army next week.
Yeah.
It might be Army because I don't see USC giving them much fight. USC's in turmoil right now. They don't even know if Lincoln Kelly will make it out. I mean,
Lincoln Riley,
Yeah, Lincoln Riley. I mean, he may not make it past this year.
Yeah.
But I've heard that he has a hell of a buyout, so there's no way that, they may not get rid of him.
And you're thinking of Notre Dame, like, you don't have to play in the conference championships. You don't have a loss there.
Right.
So, I mean.
The only thing bad about Notre Dame is they cannot be any higher than the number 5 seed. So they'll get 1 home game, but they'll never get a bye. Yeah, because they don't play in a conference.
Yeah, but as a Notre Dame fan, isn't that what we're used to?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we just happy that we get at least a home game and then we get to go lose in the
Right.
I mean, Notre Dame, it's hard for me as a Notre Dame fan to think that they'll ever be a national championship. That 2012 year, we were like, they were the best. And then they got on the field with Alabama. And I just saw a story about Manti Te'o talking about, which still looking for his girlfriend, but where he was talking about they were walking on the field and they saw Alabama running out.
Right.
And they were like, eyes were so big, like, holy shit, these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy shit.
Right.
It was just a different class. So I definitely agree, but
I think we're still in its infant stages with this. I think once we get closer to the conference championships, I think the picture will set itself.
Yeah, and we'll bring this to you guys every Saturday, just kind of talking a little bit about the playoffs because it is a huge part of what this is coming to. And then the great part is when the season ends, conference championships, we're like, okay, we get a little playoff. And I cannot wait for that. I am so glad they have this. More home games. I think the home game is going to be a huge factor in this, which we didn't really talk about, but that teams can take it to an off-site, which makes no sense.
Yeah, we're connected to a neutral site.
Yeah,
right. Which some of these stadiums like Indiana only holds 55,000.
But you want that home field.
Exactly. I totally agree. But, it's all about the money,
Yeah, but even at the home, even if you go off-site, you lose that game, it'll never happen
Well,
again.
and you'd also, like, if you go to, like for State Indiana, then if they want to go play at the Lucas Oil Stadium, is that available that weekend?
Yeah.
So that's another deal, too.
Well, I don't think Colts are playing on a playoff segment, so don't worry. But yes, you're right.
They're not playing beautiful games on Saturday nights anyway, so.
Well, yeah. So, well, let's get to our must-watch games of this week. First off, right off the bat, an ACC showdown. Number 20, Clemson versus Pitt. What do you think about this game?
I think this is a game. You've got two teams. Clemson needs to win.
Yeah.
And they're at 6-1 right now in the ACC. Currently second. So if their ACC would start today, they would be in the championship. And Pitt started out 7-0. Boy, they started out really good. But they have fallen on hard times. I think they've lost the last 2 out of 3 games, and they're just they've had back-to-back losses. So and this is senior day for Pittsburgh. So they're going to have to really play. Both these teams need to win. Yeah. They both need to win to stay in the ACC chance for the ACC. So
so I want to stop you real quick. You said that they're second, so they're actually third right now.
Oh,
because you got Miami and SMU.
Oh,
they would face each other.
Okay.
So in this game, you're looking at, if you're Clemson, you win out and hope for the worst for the other teams.
Right.
Right. So you need SMU to lose twice, which I don't see happen because they don't have that part of the schedule.
Right.
And then Miami to lose again. I do see that possibly happening. Virginia Tech had no reason to be on the field with them.
Right.
So they better pull their heads out of their asses.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. This game comes down to Caden Klunick or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's taking way too many sacks. He's holding on to the ball way too long. Pitt's D-line can get after it. And if they do, this is a game where Clemson will. But because, Cade took, 4 sacks last week. It's one of these things where it's a must-watch because now we're talking about the playoffs. And now we're talking about how do these teams – it's all just – strategy of how to get there.
They're jockeying for the top 2 spots. Because if they could play in that ACC championship, they have a chance. They have a chance to get into playoffs and get one of 4 of the number 1 seeds too. So,
and that might be their only chance to get in.
Right.
So I definitely agree. And you got to think about this too with the ACC. We for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, we're like they're just the people that are supposed to win are winning, right? Except for Florida that week 0.
Right.
But everyone was winning, and then they just started beating the shit out of each other. This is a game where I could see Pitt just pulling it off. They have no reason to be on the field with them, but they pull it off because it's
I think Clemson's just playing too good. I think Klubnik is playing too good a ball. I think they're ready to go. That it seems like when it hits November, Pittsburgh just doesn't.
Yeah,
they play tough all the way, and it seems like right now they're clicking on all cylinders. Clemson is. I think Clemson can beat them.
Well, and that even goes back to when what's his name was there, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Even when Kenny Pickett, they got ranked and then they lost and then they went nowhere.
Right.
They had to change a rule because of him. That's the only other thing you heard about him. But it is a must watch because you got to see how this ACC changes. The other one is one of 2 SEC showdowns. Number 23, Missouri versus number 21, South Carolina. So Missouri needs this win not just to keep in the fight of the SEC, just to say this year was relevant. They got so overranked. They got so hyped. And then they started losing games. If they don't win this game, I think it's a disappointing loss or a disappointing year. Now, on the other side, South Carolina, you go back in the beginning of the year, they had LSU on the ropes, didn't beat them, right? And then they had, I want to say, they didn't play Georgia. They had another team on the ropes, and they lost them at the end.
Yeah.
If they change those, they might be a team we're talking about in these. So I think this SEC team coming off good wins. They've gone 4 straight SEC wins. But Missouri's biggest problem starts with the quarterback.
Yeah.
Drew Pine playing. Notre Dame didn't want him. And guess what? Notre Dame doesn't have great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And Drew Pine is playing there. I think the way South Carolina's been running, the way it's going to be an afternoon game for them, I think, it's an afternoon game for them. I think they get after it. What do you think?
Well, I think the defense, I think South Carolina's defense is playing extraordinarily well. And, you don't have Brady Cook. So, like you said, to go to a Drew Pine. I mean, it's just, South Carolina's defense, likes to takes the ball away in bunches. I think they're going to get revenge against Missouri. I think this is all South Carolina.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, and what Missouri needs to do is get Luther Burden, whatever his name is. He has to be, because in the beginning of the season, when they were winning, it was like even the screens and the bubble and the when you put him in motion, he gets it off the quarterback. Like you know what I mean though. Like
right.
They were just getting them the ball however they could.
Right.
And then it just seemed like once Cook went down, it was like, okay, we don't need him anymore. Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
They have to get him more involved. But the same side, this Kyle Kennard, he is tied for the most sacks in SEC, and he has the most tackles for loss in the SEC. So he's tied, and then he's got the most. If that Kyle Kennard gets after them, and my problem with Drew Pine is he's just too short.
Right.
Can't see over the line.
Well, in that one game that he threw out of the 4 passes,
Alabama,
he threw 3 of them for interceptions. So that you ain't gonna win. I mean, and I think South Carolina with their quarterback sellers and that running back, that 1-2 combination, I think they're gonna just run all over them.
And I think Brady Cook had to play great all year for Missouri to be relevant.
Right.
And that was the problem is Missouri starts getting kind of a name for themselves. But if they were in a different conference, maybe it works out for them.
Right.
Maybe the ACC, maybe the Big 12, that would have worked out.
Right.
But you're in the SEC. You're going through the heart of college football.
Yeah.
And you just can't play that way.
No.
You can't depend on 2 players to win your games.
No.
Hey, ask Georgia. Look at Georgia now.
Yeah.
But, I definitely think this game, it'll be nice, though, because the Gamecocks need some relevance. You know what I mean? Like, it's another school that you're like, if they could get tradition going a little bit, they're a scary team, too.
Yeah. Right. Most definitely.
Well, it takes us to our night game. This is the must-watch. This is a game that I will say right off the bat, Tennessee versus number 7 Tennessee versus number 12 Georgia. What do you think about this game?
This is massive college football implications.
Yeah.
This is the lowest that Georgia has ever been in a college playoff since 2016.
Yeah.
That's almost 10 years. That's a long time. They have been dominant for a while, and they need to finish. And they finished. They just they need to beat Tennessee. That's all there is to it. Now Tennessee with an 8-1 record, and they've already beat Alabama, so they've got one thing up. So, but the Vols are looking shaky on offense right now.
Yeah.
That the quarterback, he's hurt. He's got a bum ankle or concussion. Concussion. So, that's if they can have him going. I don't know how Tennessee can win.
Yeah,
really
but
don't.
So it's kind of one of these things where I looked up that Tennessee has not beat Georgia since 2016. And just to kind of tell you how I graduated college in 2016.
Right.
And I feel like 45 every day I wake up. Okay.
Right.
That's a long damn time. But you're saying the quarterback, Nico, not playing. We already know that Georgia's running back's not playing at the end, which is huge of a loss for them. At the same time, he wasn't much of a factor as of recent weeks because he was wearing what did they say it was like a coated shoe. Dipped in like fiberglass or whatever.
Really?
Because he couldn't have it touched.
Right.
That's why he's out for the foot injury. But like, if Nico's health is at question in this game, how much is Georgia going to lean on blitzing?
Right. Yeah, because their quarterback Gavin Moore has thrown 42 career passes.
Yeah. And he's a fifth year. He's a fifth year too.
They're going to go after him and pin their ears back, and they're going to go right after him.
And you hope so, because I think we still have this illusion in our head, and we still do it to Alabama. Let's be real.
Right.
But like with Georgia, we just they're going to turn it on. They're going to turn, and they just haven't yet this year.
No.
And when you think about, you're talking about the quarterback of Nico, you got to talk about Carson Beck on the other side.
Right.
Because Carson Beck has played like shit this year.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. He is questioning his throws. That one that intercepted at Ole Miss, it got tipped at the line. I totally understand that. But he's floating the ball. Right. He's like trying to throw at a target instead of just throw the ball.
Yeah.
And I saw today that the guy that has a spiky hair on ESPN, Marty Smith, right? Marty Smith went and talked to the coach, and he's like, how do you get him to have confidence?
Right.
With also telling him, protect the damn ball.
Right.
And he's like, that's a hard one. Yeah, you can't. The
Right.
problem is you just need to go play your game.
Right.
Play the way you have. But when you don't have the weapons like you did in the past couple of years, maybe it wasn't him the past couple of years. Maybe
Right.
it was because he had the weapons.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think he's plummeted his stock. If he would have went out last year instead of going, and I don't know if he's a junior this year.
Well, they had McConkey and Bowers last year. I mean, he had two go-to receivers.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got that this year. The offensive line is beat up. I mean, he just doesn't have the time. And, and when they played, I can't remember who they played last, the field was wide open. I mean, was it LSU?
No, they played Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I mean, the field was wide open for him to throw the ball down. And he just couldn't he didn't have enough time.
Yeah, I also think that too, the Ole Miss game, I'm kind of putting in my mind, maybe not the college playoffs, I'm kind of putting that game to a don't remember it kind of thing. And the reason I say this is because it was awful weather conditions.
Right.
So it was one of these things where I felt like in my head it was hard for me to be like, oh, that's the Georgia team. Both those teams were sliding around.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Ole Miss played better in the conditions than Georgia did.
Right.
But let's see, because let's not forget, Georgia beat Clemson on a neutral site by 28 points.
Right.
And they beat Texas, which now you're putting Texas as number 3.
Yeah.
So I think that they can turn it on when they need to, but they got their asses beat by Alabama.
Yeah.
And honestly, and the score looked close at the end. But that game, the way it started, Alabama could have beaten by 50.
Yeah.
So that's what this game, it's at your house. First time you play it in a month. The crowd better be rowdy. It's a night game.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you right now, if Nico doesn't play, they're going to have to lean on that Dylan Sampson or whatever for Tennessee. Or Dylan, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Dylan Sampson
Right.
for Tennessee. He's got over 1,000 rushing yards this year. He's been running the hell out of the rock. But you got to get more involved in that. So if Nico doesn't play, I'm very nervous for Tennessee to even compete. But if Nico doesn't play, and I'm just going to throw this out there, if Nico plays, gets hurt, and he's out for a couple more weeks, do you take him off the college playoffs? Do you take Tennessee out? If they lose and Nico gets hurt, do you take him out?
Well, what happened last year with?
And that's what I was just bringing up because
what happened to the quarterback from
Florida State, Jordan Travis or whatever?
Yes, got hurt and they didn't make the playoffs.
And that's what I'm just
right.
Everyone was like, "Oh, well, if it was 12 teams, we wouldn't have had that problem with Florida State." I think we're gonna have that same damn problem because Nico's health is a condition. Right. He was in concussion protocol on Monday. The coach was like, I don't have a problem. I think he'll play this week. What if he doesn't? We've seen some of these players this recent year that the concussion protocol is not a week anymore. It's a couple weeks.
Right.
Malik Neighbors was out for 3 weeks.
Right.
So it can happen with this. I just feel like if they lose this game, I think Tennessee's on the bubble as well. Everyone's saying it's a must-win for Georgia. I think it's a must-win for Tennessee. Because if they get into a second loss, I don't think they have the resume to put them
at. They haven't played enough good teams.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the Alabama one, that'll help them. But will it put them over the top to keep them in the playoffs?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, let's get to the betting segment of our show. Let's start out with your first bet for this weekend.
Michigan State at Illinois. It's senior day for Illinois. So Illinois is coming off the bye after losing two straight games. If Illinois can win this one, and they will go 9-3 and have a damn good season, they could win out. Spartans have struggled this year with turnovers and penalties. Aiden Childs has 8 TDs but 11 interceptions. Yikes! Which is the worst ratio in the conference. Then you got Luke Allmeyer for Illinois. He has 16 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
So you can just tell the difference between the two teams. Illinois' defense has forced 10 turnovers and picked off 9 passes. Illinois is 5-3, 5-3-1 against the spread, and the Spartans are 4-5 against the spread. Illinois is 2.5-point favorite. Illinois coming off the bye, and Sparty just not as good as this year. I'm going to take Illinois, and I'll give you a 2.5.
I agree with that one. I think Illinois has got a bad rep right now just because of the losses, but they're against Oregon and what was the other one? Penn State. Those are teams that are in college playoffs. Michigan State is not their team.
No.
So for a 2.5-point spread, if this was earlier in the season after they beat Nebraska and stuff like this would be a 7 to 9 point spread.
I agree. And then getting beat at home against Minnesota, that's their third loss, which Minnesota's not a bad team.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what makes you nervous is is Minnesota as good as Michigan State?
Right.
So we'll definitely see. I think they
Right.
bounce back this week. They got to run the damn ball. Like, stop trying to do too much. For my first bet, I'm actually staying in the Big Ten as well. I'm taking the Oregon versus Wisconsin. So Mr. Tim Cook's up here in Wisconsin with us. We've recently moved. Funny part about this real quick before I get into this game is Wisconsin hosts Oregon. So it's a number 1 team playing in Wisconsin. Could go see that game if we wanted to within a couple hours of a drive. Or we could go back to Illinois and see Ohio State play Northwestern. So we're right in a good place. But guess what? We're not going to see either one of these games. I got the 3 TV set up. We'll sit it from at home, watch all the games. And also why? Because the ticket prices are over $200 at both locations, which is absolutely crazy.
It's crazy.
But Oregon versus Wisconsin, Oregon, I think will play them. I think Wisconsin will play them close in the first half, maybe in the first quarter. But Oregon's offense is right now just way too powerful. 13.5 point spread. It's a bigger point spread. But if Alabama can handle Wisconsin and beat up that points, I think Oregon does it well too.
Yeah.
It's just 13.5. I think is a perfect for them. If it was closer to that 17, I probably wouldn't touch it.
Is this a night game?
I think it's an afternoon, but let me look. I think it's an afternoon.
No, that'd be too bad. I mean, I don't think that's going to make a difference because I think Oregon's team is just too good. I mean, they're going to be in the college and they're probably going to get a number 1 seed. I don't see anybody from the Big Ten even coming close to matching, other than Ohio State being close to them. But other than that, I don't see anything else.
I can't even find the game now. It is a night game.
Oh, so that I don't know if that will make a difference, but
yeah,
but I don't think it will.
And
I don't think Oregon's just too good. Dylan Gabriel but I do know. I think that wide receiver Tez Johnson, he's out. He's out. So but does it matter?
He didn't even play against Ohio State.
Yeah,
he got thrown out in the first.
Yeah,
so I'm not worried about that. Even a night game, that's what I'm saying, is going to be close in the first quarter, first half. What do you got for your second bet?
Syracuse against Cal. Syracuse coming off the loss, 37-31, in which they led 21-14 in the third quarter. Kyle McCord thrown for 3,000 yards this year. Syracuse has failed to cover the spread 8 November road games, and Cal has covered the spread at 8 of the last 9 November games. Cal has all the momentum, and Syracuse has to try all the way across country. You know how East teams go west. They don't do very well. I think Cal's offense is going to be able to move the ball down the field against the Qs. So give me Cal, and I'll give you the 8.5.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And that one's kind of a Syracuse with that Kyle McCord is he's up and down. He's too much of a roller coaster in this game, so I definitely agree. For my second bet, I'm going Nebraska versus USC. USC struggled since joining the Big Ten. Like we've said, we've thrown out the Moss has changed. There's been other situations there too, but Nebraska's been kind of losing some games recently that they should be winning. Nebraska is getting 7.5 in this game. I think that's way too many points. It is an afternoon game. If it was a night game at USC, it might be a little bit different. Right. Afternoon game. I like Nebraska with the 7.5 in this game. What do you got for your third bet?
Boise State at San Jose State. Boise State coming off the big win against Nevada, 28-21. Boise State was led by Heisman hopeful Ashton Jeanty. He has led the team against Nevada with 200. When they played Nevada last week, 209 yards and 3 tutties. QB Maddox Madsen threw for only 116 yards, but they didn't need much. I mean, San Jose State is coming off a victory against Oregon State, 24-13. QB Walker Eggert threw for 395 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception against Oregon State. Their running attack is averaging almost 100 yards per game. The underdog has covered the spread in 3 of the last 4 games between the two. I think Boise State is looking to get closer to the college football playoffs, but they have to play. This is a better team than they've had to play all season.
Yeah.
San Jose State is 4-0 at home. I think Boise State wins, but I think I'm going to take San Jose State and to keep it close. So I'll take San Jose State, and I'll take the 13.5 points.
That's a lot, but at the same time, it makes me a little nervous to take this because Boise State is not a conference winner that's going to get in. It's going to be by the eye test with them. So they're gonna have to run the points up.
Right.
And I think they're like everyone's kind of noticing what Notre Dame's doing by like going for it on fourth down and doing things because they're like, we need to score 50 points
Right.
and dominate these teams to show that we need to be in there. So 13 and a half, I hope there's no more garbage touchdowns at the end.
Right.
And you're hoping it's in your favor at the end, if anything.
Right. Right.
No, I definitely agree. For my final bet, I'm staying with one of our must-watch games, Clemson versus Pitt. So the points, I don't like the point spreads in this game. I don't care for that. What I like is the over-under in this one. It's set at 52 and a half. Now, Pitt's defense is very they're like Vikings defense. And what I mean by that is they show a lot of bluffs. And I feel like the way Cade has been playing with taking the sacks and things like that, I just think he's going to second guess a little bit. I don't think they're going to score as many points as what Clemson's used to going up.
Right.
At the same time, Clemson's defense is really good as well. So I think they can hold Pitt. My biggest problem with this game is if Clemson gets the turnovers against Pitt and puts them in good field position, this over-under is going to kill me. But I'm going on the under of this one at 52 and a half.
Wow.
I don't think Clemson is going to be able to score as fast. And it might be one of these ones where the crowd gets involved in it the senior night.
Right.
In the first half, keeps it real low.
Right.
And then I'm sweating at the end.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I can see Clemson scoring 30, 40. I don't know. Pitt. I mean, I don't know. I like that under the total. I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's just not a high scoring team.
No, and
they play good defense, and they're kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
They just play enough. I mean, they just play with their great defense, and that's it. You know.
Well, and you got to think too. Clemson is not about the eye test. They got to win the conference. So they can win by 7. They can win by 14. They can win by 21. Whatever.
Right.
But they don't got to win by 30.
Right.
They don't have to prove a point because the only way they're getting in is, and we've talked about this. The ACC is only going to get one team.
Yeah.
They've done
the winner of the ACC championship is going to.
They've done
make it up.
way too many losing at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then you have to take an SMU. But for the other games that are happening on Saturday, like we said, Ohio State's playing at Northwestern. We brought up Michigan State and Illinois. We got Penn State at Purdue. Nebraska at USC. Oh, this is just the Big Ten. Let me go to the actual 25 because I don't really care about half these. Texas is playing at Arkansas. Colorado is hosting Utah. Colorado needs to bounce back this week and kind of handle business. Got to keep Shadur Sanders from the turf. But throw the ball away if it ain't there because you're kind of causing some of those sacks.
Yeah.
Tulane, number 25, is taking on Navy, which was ranked a couple weeks ago. Now they're not. Alabama's playing Mercer. Yeah, that's a bullshit game. Illinois,
that's a payday game.
Yeah,
for Mercer.
Notre Dame is playing Virginia at 2:30. SMU's taking on Boston College, which I think will give SMU a close game because Boston College finds ways to stay in games.
Yeah, that coach Tom O'Brien.
Yeah,
he always has his team ready to play.
Number 19, Louisville takes on Stanford. LSU goes to Florida. And then Boise State, San Jose State. You got Kansas State and Arizona State. That's another game we thought about was a must-watch.
Yeah.
6 o'clock game on ESPN. The Big 12 is just they just beat the shit out of each other. And it's like by the time playoffs come around, who's going to even stand? We said Oregon and Wisconsin's a night game. New Mexico State and Texas A&M. Washington State versus New Mexico. And then the 9:15 game, Kansas versus BYU. Now BYU. Is the clock going to hit midnight for them?
Right.
So we'll see about that one. I wanted the point spread on that one, the 2.5, but it almost makes me feel like someone knows someone or something.
Something about
because
somebody in Vegas knows something.
It's a 9-0 team versus a 3-6 team.
Right.
So I'm wondering what's up with that. But yeah, so that is our college football of this week. I have not been doing great on bets all together. So I need a bounce back week this week. I need these 3 bets. I need to go 3-0. 2-1, one of them. I can't not do it. And you've been doing pretty solid. I think you're at over 50% on college and then NFL. You're 6-0, so we'll bring that up on Sunday as well.
Right.
So, but I want to thank everyone. We're in person. We get to enjoy the football games. I hope you guys have a great Saturday, and we will talk to you guys soon.